What is up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. Today we are going to talk about 10 of the most twisted Pokédex entries that the Pokédex itself has to offer. Now, there may be a million videos out there like this, but I've always wanted to talk about some of these because, honestly, I'm a little bit messed up, and clearly, so are the people at the Pokemon Company. I mean, honestly, whoever wrote some of these, you need serious mental help, and me too. Me too, my friend. So I didn't want to put these in any particular order because, honestly, all of them are really messed up in their own right, and I don't feel like it's right to rank all of these, even though I definitely could. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just get right on into it. Alright, so the first Pokemon that I wanted to talk about today is this cute little balloon, Drifloon. Yes, Drifloon may look cute with its little purple aesthetic and its little cloud-looking thing on the top of its head, but it's got a very dark backstory. Alright, so heading over to Bulbapedia real quick, my favorite Dex entries for it that I think really encompass its true horrors are from Pokemon Sun and Moon. So in Pokemon Moon, the Dex entry says if for some reason its body bursts, its soul spills out with a screaming sound. And then if you head over to Pokemon Sun, it's equally, if not even more terrifying. Stories go that it grabs the hands of small children and drags them away to the afterlife. It dislikes heavy children. Now, I'm going to assume that that's because heavier children are harder to drag, and you know what? That's just kind of terrifying. This Pokemon completely reminds me of Slender Man, and I'm not into it. I'm really not into it. Now, obviously, Drifloon is pretty messed up, and in Pokemon Ultra Sun, it kind of all comes together with the Dex entry saying its round body is stuffed with souls, and it expands every time it leads someone away. So, presumably, if this Pokemon were wild and not being leveled up through battle, I would assume that it would evolve into Drifblim, the bigger version of this balloon, by stealing souls from children. Okay? That's pretty twisted, and honestly, Drifloon is one of the most terrifying Pokemon in the entire Pokédex. And the next Pokédex entry that we are going to talk about today is for none other than the Pokemon Cacturne. Now, Cacturne, of course, has spikes and looks a little bit intimidating, but it's not a Pokemon that you would really think has that much of a twisted backstory. But, of course, if you go over and head into the Pokédex, you will find otherwise. In Pokemon Sapphire, the Pokédex reads, if a traveler is going through the desert in the thick of night, Cacturne will follow in a ragtag group. These Pokemon are biding their time, waiting for the traveler to tire and become incapable of moving. Honestly, that's pretty terrifying. I mean, imagine being a victim to a gang of Cacturne. Imagine a bunch of cactuses following you through the desert until you pass out, just so then they can gang beat you and steal all of your stuff and probably do a bunch of other horrible things to you. But I guess the Pokemon world needed more gangsters than just Team Skull. And next up, we're going to talk about Haunter. Now, Haunter may just look like some sort of silly ghost Pokemon with a big tongue. And though the Pokemon may have seemed very lovable in the anime, there's a lot more that meets the eye behind this guy. If you head on over to the Pokédex entries from Pokemon Crystal and Pokemon Silver, you'll find some very terrifying information. In Pokemon Crystal, the Pokédex reads, it hides in the dark, planning to take the life of the next living thing that wanders close by. Then in Pokemon Silver, it reads, its tongue is made of glass. If licked, a victim will start shaking constantly until death comes. Now, of course, Misty somehow got licked and lived to tell the tale, maybe because Haunter thought of her as a friend. Who honestly knows? And there's a couple of conspiracy theories surrounding that, but we're going to leave it there right now so I don't have nightmares tonight. And of course, following Haunter, we have to talk about Gengar. Now, Gengar is a ghost Pokemon, so of course, yes, its Pokedex entry is going to be a little bit messed up, as most of them are. But Gengar is especially terrifying simply because of its Pokemon Sun Pokedex entry. So in Pokemon Sun, the Pokedex reads, it apparently wishes for a traveling companion. Since it was once human itself, it tries to create one by taking the lives of other humans. So yes, shout out to Pokegirl7 and shout out to the Gengar gang, because the Pokemon that you all worship is basically just a serial killer trying to avenge its own death. And honestly, I kind of feel bad for Gengar. He is just kind of a big goofy trickster that likes to pull pranks on other people. But stealing someone's life is never good. That's not a good way to live in the afterlife, buddy. You've gotta move on, okay? And continuing the ghost Pokemon trend, of course, we cannot talk about Twisted Pokedex entries without talking about Banette. This guy right here has obviously got a story to tell, and maybe that's why its mouth is zipped shut. I have some theories about that, but let's go ahead and pop over to the Pokedex and see what their reasoning is. In Pokemon Emerald, the Pokedex reads, an abandoned plush doll became this Pokemon. They are said to live in garbage dumps and wander about in search of the children that threw them away. So yes, if you look back on your childhood and you remember that favorite toy that you loved so dearly that you just one day set aside because you were too old for it, well, I've got news for you. It's searching for you. It's going to come and find you, and it's going to kill you, okay? You abandon it. It's gonna haunt you. It's never gonna really leave, okay? It's after you. After this one, we're going to take a little bit of a break from the ghost types, but I also wanted to talk about Phantom, which is honestly one of my favorite Pokemon just by its design. It's very cute, and its shiny form is really awesome as well. However, no matter how good the design, all Pokemon seem to have their own stories to tell, and Phantom is no different. In Pokemon Y, the Pokedex reads, according to old tales, these Pokemon are stumps, possessed by the spirits of children who died while lost in the forest. Honestly, this Pokedex entry is just kind of sad, and it makes me want to take Phantom into my arms and give it just a little bit of a hug, okay? It's looking for its mommy. You have to feel bad for the poor little stumps. And looking back, maybe Drifloon, the essential Slender Man of Pokemon, took Phantom into the forest before it became a Phantom. Maybe Drifloon created Phantom, okay? Are you following me? But of course, this is just my theory. It's not been confirmed, and I don't know if anyone else has talked about this yet. But this is definitely very messed up, and I can't help but see a connection between these two Pokemon. Now we're just a little over halfway done. Are you terrified yet? Do you need therapy? If you work for the Pokemon Company, have you sought mental help? I mean, honestly, come on, guys. These are terrifying. This is a terrifying list, and I can't believe... I can't believe that this kind of thing is in a child's game. This was originally created for children. This is what we hand our kids. This is the kind of content that we give our tiny children. And obviously, I like the franchise too. I'm just as messed up as the rest of these people. I have a freaking YouTube channel about it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the rest of this list because I could rant all day about how messed up the Pokemon franchise actually is. Okay, so stepping away from Ghost Pokemon because obviously they have to be the most messed up Pokemon, right? We're going to take a breath and talk about a happy, bouncing little pig. But of course, because I'm mentioning Spoink, that means there has to be something wrong with this one too. Because of course, that's just how it works in the Pokemon universe, and honestly, this place is just kind of a house of horrors masked as a child's game. Now, of course, even though I would love this Pokemon to be just a happy bouncing little pig, we have to get into the reasoning behind it. So, the Pokédex reads, Spoink bounces on its tail. The shock of it bouncing makes its heart pump. As a result, this Pokemon cannot afford to stop bouncing. If it stops, its heart will stop. So no, Spoink isn't just sitting there bouncing with glee like a happy little piglet, it's jumping to keep its heart pumping. The poor thing's probably constantly terrified of falling asleep for fear that it might stop bouncing and essentially kill itself. It seems that even when we get away from the ghost types, the horrors are never really over. So back to the twisted entries, the next Pokemon that we're going to talk about is Cubone. Now this is one of the most popular ones that people talk about, and honestly, I feel for the little guy. And it's one of my favorite Pokemon simply because of its messed up backstory. Now, for this Pokemon, its Pokédex entry reads, It pines for the mother that it will never see again. Seeing a likeness of its mother in the full moon, it cries. The stains on its skull are wears from its tears. It wears its mother's skull, never revealing its true face. So of course there's a lot of theories and speculation on, of course, who Cubone's mother is. But this is one of the messed up Pokédex entries that definitely deserves the limelight in this list. Now, of course, if you're playing Pokemon Let's Go, you have seen this scene play out in full cinematic quality. Cubone is honestly just a small child that got abandoned when someone killed its mother, and I don't think there's anything more sad in this franchise than that. So anyone, if you run into a wild Cubone, be sure to give it a hug because it definitely needs one. Now the next Pokédex entry that I want to bring up is not one that a lot of people talk about, but it is definitely very, very twisted, and I just wanted to bring a little bit of light to this Pokemon, because you would never think that it's messed up. And this Pokemon, of course, is Metapod. Metapod is honestly just kind of a tortured soul trapped in a shell. Now, you may be looking at Metapod and wondering, what could possibly be wrong with this one? In Pokemon Sun's Pokédex entry, it reads, Its shell is filled with soft innards. It doesn't move much because of the risk it might carelessly spill its innards out. Honestly, I can't imagine living essentially my entire life scared that my intestines are going to fall out of my body. So Metapod, with Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, you've earned your place. You've earned your right to be here on the list of twisted Pokédex entries. Congratulations, and I'm so sorry. And back to Ghost Pokemon, we still haven't talked about Yamask. Now, Yamask is the last Ghost Pokemon that I'm going to be talking about on this particular list, but it is definitely a Pokemon that deserves the highlight. In Pokemon Black, its Pokédex entry reads, Each of them carries a mask that used to be its face when it was a human. Sometimes they look at it and cry. So it's safe to say that Yamask is really just a tortured soul trapped in a Pokemon body. And honestly, I feel kind of bad for the thing, and I can't imagine ever having one on my team because I feel like on every single adventure, it would just go around crying everywhere. Something's not right about this, okay? Rounding out this list is Gorebyss. Now, I may be saying this wrong, okay? I'm gonna put the spelling up on the screen, but this pretty pink Pokemon actually has something going on with it. There's something wrong with this one too, and you know what? I'm sorry, I'm just reporting at this point. Now, in Pokemon Sapphire, this Pokemon's Pokédex entry reads, Although Gorebyss is the very picture of elegance and beauty, while swimming, it is also cruel. When it spots prey, this Pokemon inserts its thin mouth into the prey's body and drains the prey of its body fluids. So basically, you're just swimming along and you see a pretty weird dolphin-esque type of Pokemon that you want to go up and pet because it's cute. It'll suck your innards out. It's another Pokemon that wants to drain your life away from you. Game Freak, I don't know what you could do to make this franchise more twisted, but I'm sure you'll find a way. Alright, well that about wraps it up for today's video, so I hope you had a good time despite being hopefully very disturbed, and honestly, if you're not disturbed by any of this, you might need therapy too. Alright, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Remember, if you like what you see, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, because it really helps out the channel. And if you want to see more videos, please consider subscribing down below. Be sure to comment if any of these Pokemon surprised you, and if you have more twisted Pokedex entries to share, be sure to leave those in the comments as well, because I really love to read that kind of stuff. Even though it's twisted and kind of disturbs me, I like thinking of the weird dark side to this colorful franchise. But have a great rest of your day, you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.